live. So had a bit of technical difficulties there, but got it going. So Michael Goizman and Mateo Vogel, welcome. How you guys doing?
Good, man. How are you?
Pretty good.
Doing great, man. How you doing?
I'm doing good, man. How have you been keeping busy through the quarantine?
I've been, I've been trying to keep training every day. It's hard to keep active. I've been working construction during the day. I've been framing houses for the last little bit. So, that's keeping me nice and stiff. Not, it's not great for the flexibility, but it keeps you nice and strong.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. What about you, Michael?
Trying to stay somewhat healthy, not eat all the sugar in the house, and just doing some personal improvement stuff, just doing like Photoshop courses and investment stuff. So just trying to stay busy any way we can, honestly.
Nice. And so what was the last BTC card that you fought on, Mateo? What was the name of that one? Or was that like 9 or?
It was BTC 9. Hang on a sec. I'm not good at remembering names. It was BTC. Here, I'm pulling it up now.
I was gonna say, interestingly, all three of us were in the venue that night.
It was Rampage, I think, wasn't it?
I believe so. Yeah.
Yeah. Rampage. That looks bad. Me forgetting that. Yeah, it was Rampage.
Sweet. And you had a very dominant performance. Was that your first fight that went all 3 rounds?
Yeah, that's the first time I've ever gone the distance.
Okay, cool. And I definitely see why they call you the Tick now after that fight. Like, you're taking his back all day. That was sick, man.
Absolutely.
And
super sticky, right?
Yeah. What was it like to be kind of like front row taking photos and all that, Michael?
Man, it's fun. Like, the whole reason I got into it in the first place was to be cage side and get a chance to be as close as possible and see as much as I can. And I definitely got a fair share of good fights that night. BTC 9 was one of my favorite MMA events to go to.
Yeah, that was sick. And you also went to that other event that was in that Rebel. Was that shortly after, right?
Prospect, eh?
Prospect MMA, yeah. That was a crazy venue.
Yeah, it looked pretty spectacular. Like, they didn't have a lot of people there, but they had some crazy sponsorships. They had like the Proper 12 and all that.
They had cutouts and everything.
Yeah. I feel like moving forward, that'll probably be like start to be the more norm, and like hopefully they start moving towards like cooler venues and stuff. And especially like with the whole COVID thing, like they're not going to be able to pack arenas kind of thing, but they can still make revenue off sponsorship. So hopefully you get to see some cooler venues in the future.
I think it comes down to them being allowed to do anything, man. Like, look, I just got on the mic recently on like Instagram, and I've been basically saying, like, it's kind of stupid that if you listen to the radio, you hear about team sports and shit going on, or them planning how we're gonna do hockey, how they're gonna do basketball, football, all that shit. That we're basically gonna have to isolate a full team of guys, like a full roster of guys. Let's say 30 guys are exposed to another 30 guys, exposed to another 30 guys. Why, if that's somehow feasible, why the fuck aren't we doing a sport where there's 2 guys and a ref in the competition area?
Yeah, that's a good point.
You don't even need if it's during COVID, you don't even need a big venue. All you need is, what do you need for an MMA venue? You need like a commission. I guess you need to be legally allowed to. That's where MMA is kind of hard, because like MMA is there's legality around that. There's so much legality around MMA. It has to be run by a commission. And so you need, I guess, the commission to be there to run the event. But like, honestly speaking, like if you consider how many people have to be in the venue to play a game of hockey versus how many people need to be in the venue to even run, let's say we do like a miniature card with like a couple fights on it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? The amount of people in the building and the amount of people with limited exposure, like it's so much it's so much easier to limit exposure like in that format for a sport like MMA or even jiu-jitsu or any kind of fighting sport, man. Like it makes a lot more sense that we'd allow that to happen way before we allow fucking team sports to happen.
For sure. And UFC did a good job. Like, they one of the first sports back. What are your thoughts on them coming back so early? Like, are you for it, against it, or how do you feel?
I'm 100% for it, man. Like it's basically like they're just an example. Like you see what they just did, and it's like, well, they ran entire events while adhering to the isolate or the social distancing protocols. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it goes to show you that you can do it. It's just like I guess a lot of people would probably argue with me and say it's not that much of a priority, but like to somebody who this is my livelihood, this is my career.
For sure.
I'm also 24 years old, so like it's not exactly a year that I want to miss out on my career and showcasing my game. You know what I mean? Like this is really, I think, a key year. This is the age that John Jones became the UFC champion. So I think it's kind of a real pain in the ass that I can't showcase myself at 24.
Yeah, it's definitely you're on the come up for sure. What are your thoughts moving forward? Like how long do you think till they're gonna actually start opening things up? When do you think you'll be able to get back in the ring?
It's tough to say, man. Like it might. I don't even know what the restrictions on, like, if it doesn't happen here, then maybe the restrictions for like travel might change, and then maybe I'd be able to fight somewhere else if I had to.
Fight Island.
Yeah, exactly. I'm down to fight. Hey, I'll fight on Fight Island on a fucking day's notice, man.
Sweet. And
yeah,
Michael, you kind of have been in the helping plan events and stuff. What kind of like procedures do you think they're gonna implement like moving forward, and like how do you think promoters will, like Rory McDonald, who you've worked with in the past, how do you think they're gonna have to adjust to all this?
It's really tough to say, man. Like, it's definitely gonna be a huge change for everybody. I don't know if we're gonna be looking at events with fans anytime soon, to be honest, just because, like you guys said, there's so many logistics that go into putting on an event. If you talk about team sports, yeah, it's crazy, right? 30 people per team, like that's not an easy event to put together. There's the people who need to plan the event, set up, game day, make sure it's all fine, security, medical, the athletic commissions, obviously. So there's a lot of moving parts, and the UFC did a good job of showing us that it's definitely doable. And now it's just a matter of when's the government going to come out and say it's totally doable, right? If we take all the precautions. And I think that one of the big things right now is just getting together the framework to actually do it. I don't think fans are going to be happening anytime soon, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I think that we could definitely get athletes in there and get them fighting sooner than later. I definitely think it's doable. It's just a matter of being allowed to, right? Like, I don't know what Mateo's hearing from his side. I don't know if they're telling him anything when he could possibly fight, but right now I haven't heard anything in terms of getting stuff back up and running. Obviously, I'd love to get on it, you know.
Sure.
Taken over.
They haven't said much about, like, they haven't said anything to us or even given us a hint as to like when fighting's going to be allowed, because I honestly think nobody knows. Like, they literally have to be allowed to, you know what I mean, like legally. But what I've heard a little bit, I've heard some news trickle down that like they're going to make exceptions for training, so professionals might be allowed to train. I don't know, that's like a rumor I heard. Professionals might be allowed to train, just given that it's our job, it's our career. So I guess that would be, again, probably like reduced sessions with like a small group of guys, and we'd probably be, have to take a fucking Purell bath afterwards, but
it's your livelihood, right? If they're letting people go to winners and home sense, there's no reason that they shouldn't let people be against one person in the cage. Like you said, we can get the testing done and hopefully get fighters back in there soon, jiu-jitsu players in there soon. I don't think it's impossible to do.
Nordic Spa is allowing fucking massages soon.
Yeah, exactly.
Allowing massages soon. You know what I mean? Like how much different this is getting a massage than training jiu-jitsu with somebody. You know what I mean?
One will probably be a lot more pleasurable than the other, but as far as contact goes, they're the exact same thing, I would say.
Absolutely.
So Professor Pete, he actually fought or competed at the Bellum Quintet. That was the first one, right?
The Quintet, there's been 3. The last one was the Oakville event.
I think he fought on the second one, didn't he? He fought Tiago? Was it the second one or the first one? I think it was the second.
Okay, nice. And did he win that one?
No, yeah, man, they had actually a close fight, but he ended up losing with a little bit of time left. Man, like that's the closest he's come to beating Thiago. I mean, Thiago have like competed against each other a whole bunch of times now. And what was real frustrating for it's really frustrating for the jiu-jitsu guys, especially for like Pete, like, is the fact that like his game is getting like he was so sharp. Any of the guys who can attest to this who were rolling with them or who were rolling with Peter, like he was feeling so, he was feeling like such a monster, even more so than usual, right when this lockdown started. So it's, I think for a lot of the athletes, like we were hitting like a real stride right when this happened. So it was real frustrating when all of a sudden we can't train anymore and sharpen the weapons. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Are like Crew Jeff and Professor Peter, are they like sending you regimens to do or workouts? I know you're doing some of the online training, like teaching some classes, but have they been like giving you any specific things to do in the meantime?
They've given me, I think they've given me kind of time now. This is like because before the Sergey fight, man, I had fight after fight after fight kind of like fall through and maybe. And so I basically had, not that I ever stopped training, but I had like a fight camp that started with the TKO that was supposed to happen.
Mm-hmm.
And before that even, and it ended, I had a little break at Christmas, but like I was kind of training through Christmas. And then, so I had like, what is that? Like 4 or 5 months. We're treating it like fight camp. So we were going hard. I was getting banged up. I was getting injured. And so right when the Surrey fight happened, it was like my immune system like crashed, you know what I mean? Because I've been training so hard for so long. So I think right when the COVID thing happened, like there's that, like this is kind of like a bit of a rest. I had a few weeks to rest, but then I think at this point, my coaches, they trust me to know my regimen and to kind of adapt my own training as I see fit right now, especially that there's no like fight on the horizon. I'm pretty responsible with my own training, and I have the access to all these awesome coaches, man. They all tailor their workouts for me for different purposes, and so I just kind of take the best from everybody, and I kind of tailor my own training.
Nice. And during your little break there, like when you were doing the your 4-month fight camp, did you do any like jiu-jitsu competitions or anything like that?
No, I didn't do any. I was signed up for one. I was actually supposed to fight at the Bellum tournament when I was supposed to do a thing with Malcolm Gordon, but that fell through. So that was real frustrating too. But
was that for the third one?
That one wasn't at the Quintet. This one was at they did a tournament. Was that the same? It was not a tournament. It was a tournament, and then Malcolm Gordon and I were in the same division. So Rory just said, "Hey, let's make it a super fight," and then both of us were down, and then Malcolm, I guess, couldn't do it at the last minute or whatever.
Okay.
But yeah.
Was that from
frustrating?
was that at the Nogi Classic or was that at Quintet?
Yeah, it was the Nogi Classic. That's what it was.
Yeah.
I was looking forward to that. I've been training tons of Nogi for the past few months before that. Like I had been killing it in Nogi. So it was real frustrating. It was right around the time of ADCC too. So I was super inspired by watching that. I could be wrong. Yeah.
Do you prefer no gi or do you prefer with the gi?
I don't have a preference, man. Depends on what day. Depends on the day.
Yeah.
I'm kind of 50-50. You go through phases, man. It's like listening to different types of music.
Okay.
And for me, that's how it is. The gi was like I spent about 7 years only competing in gi. I did a few no-gi tournaments early on in my jiu-jitsu career, and then I was with the team before that was very like gi heavy, and we did no-gi like fucking once a week.
Okay.
So I competed in the gi for like 7 years straight. And then when I came back to New Era, obviously MMA got me back into no-gi, and then I quickly caught the bug for no-gi. And I'd say at this point I'm literally 50-50.
I remember before we had talked about it back at New Era, and you had said you feel like training with the gi gives you kind of an advantage because there's different components, and if you can be effective with a gi, that when you have no gi, you'll be that much more effective. Like it's kind of like an extra bit of resistance.
Yeah. Well, absolutely. It's like there's a whole different dynamic to training gi. Like you're far more restricted. At the same time as you have so many more tools. So it's like no gi is much more of a simplified, narrowed kind of jiu-jitsu. Not to say that it's not equally as technical, but there are, like Keenan Cornelius said this on a podcast recently. He's like, let's face it, the gi is the pool of techniques in the gi is huge compared to no gi. No gi is such a narrowed down game in comparison. You're so much more restricted in terms of I can't just blast someone's guard in a lot of cases because they're literally holding you grips.
Yeah.
So when you're used to being able to do jiu-jitsu whilst tangled up in this mess of fabric, as soon as you take that off, like it's so freeing. Like I feel like gi guys can naturally already move so well because they're used to being restricted, and then suddenly when they're unrestricted, their movement is phenomenal. That being said, like if they've never done no gi, or if they're not no gi heavy, they usually get like leg locked and shit too, right? Because the two games kind of move in different directions. So like there's the gi game over here with all the lasso and the spider guard and the lapel guard and all these million guards, you know what I mean? Then you have no gi, where all of a sudden you can't pass the same way. It's so much more heavy on things like leg locks, things like, especially recently, it's like they're two different sides of jiu-jitsu. And I think the ultimate best case scenario is you train both. That's the best grappling experience you can get, is if you train every kind of grappling. You train wrestling, no gi, and gi. That's what I think. And that's
do you find that the pace of no gi is a lot different? The pace is a lot quicker in no gi, and that helps for the MMA game, or not at all?
It can be, but like also the pace of a jiu-jitsu match versus the pace of an MMA match are totally different too. So people who are really good, someone who's really good at no gi might not necessarily be really good at MMA. You have to have a style that's going to cross over.
Right.
If you're somebody who likes to play a lot of inverted guards, like I was at one point, and you try to move into MMA, it can be problematic, right? Because you've ingrained these habits which you think are okay in jiu-jitsu, but suddenly line you up in the sights to get mauled in the face. You know what I mean? But yeah, I think it comes down to, like, pace-wise, it's kind of random because there's no-gi matches that don't move very fast at all, and then there's no-gi matches where two guys are sprinting at each other.
Right.
Would you say you have more of like a sprinting style, or do you kind of like to play it slow, or it depends on the day as well?
Depends on who I'm fighting and how they're playing.
One thing I saw Crew Jeff had like quoted you one time in one of his posts, something like, "It's weird how people go into a cage to feel free." Can you kind of like elaborate on that?
Well, I just had time to daydream, like the day before fight day, or on fight day, I guess. Like, because fight day and fight week is like, once you've made weight, it's like a little mini vacation. Like, I feel like it's my daydreaming time, like that. Or it's kind of sounds silly to say, but like I was just kind of sitting around, and that kind of thought popped into my head. I'm like, I just saw the irony in the fact that you step into a cage to finally be free to do something that you wouldn't be allowed to do anywhere else. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. I step in that cage, and all of a sudden I'm free to knock somebody out with my elbow. You know what I mean? Like, I'm free to be violent all of a sudden. I'm free to just be myself for, maximum 15 to 25 minutes. I can be myself in a cage. I'm free to do all these illegal things legally. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Picture is a cage is like a cage is a symbol of being trapped. You know what I mean? But in this case, being in the cage is far more freeing.
Okay. And then at the same time, like, you must feel so like present and in the moment, like as you're walking out into the cage and when the fight's first starting out and you start to zone in and tunnel in. Like, do you have a lot of nerves when you're walking out to the fight, or does it usually happen the night before, or like when do you usually feel nervous for that?
It's kind of for me, it's kind of inconsistent. I mean, it's kind of random. I don't know. I got a real mix of emotions when I fight, but what I feel the best is, this sounds weird, but like when it's any kind of form of competition, if it's jiu-jitsu, MMA, when I feel the best is when I put hands on the person. As soon as we put hands, my nerves are gone. You know what I mean? But like leading up to it is when you feel all that emotions. You feel like, oh, what if my body doesn't do what I want it to? What if, it's more like I couldn't describe it as a fear, because it's not a fear. I'm not a fearful person. I don't think any of us as MMA fighters are really fearful people, because obviously you wouldn't be fighting in a cage if you were. But like the kind of excitement that I feel, I think that's like, it's partly what, like at first, I guess it's kind of like a paralyzing feeling a little bit, but at the same time, it's also what makes you, like, you get into it. It's like Christmas morning, you're excited. You know what I mean? Yeah, you get that rush of emotions and you're ready to go. But I feel like there's way more of that hype before you guys have made contact with each other. Like as soon as we touch gloves, or as soon as we've landed punches on each other, I feel like it's natural at that point.
Yeah, then instincts kind of just kick in there.
Yeah.
So it's more of like the anticipation than the fear, you'd say.
Yeah, you're into, well, it's the same thing, right? The anticipation of an event. It's the anticipation of an event is either nerves or it's excitement, right? Same thing, except one of them is negative, one of them is positive. It's like how you interpret that. And like some people are more negatively wired and some people are more positively wired. You can talk to like all kinds of different fighters, they all say something different because everyone's wired differently. We all respond to that stimulus differently. Cowboy Cerrone was talking about how he shits bricks before every fight. Darren Till was admitting how he shits bricks before some of his fights. And then some guys, they feed off that feeling. Some guys love it.
And that's crazy that you bring up those two people, because they both love to fight and like
Absolutely.
are so active.
And one of them is one of the most like active fighters like ever.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And he shits bricks before he fights, which is the weirdest thing to think.
Yeah, I guess like kind of the overcoming your fear can be addictive.
Yeah.
Well, it was just weird. Cowboy was getting backlash for coming out and admitting that he was nervous before fights and scared before fights. But if you think about it, that's the most natural thing in the world. Right?
Yeah.
Saying Cowboy shouldn't have said that before Connor, and that maybe it affected his performance. But if I don't think that there's any shame in saying that getting into a cage with another man who's trained and is trying to hurt you is scary. Like that's scary to anyone, whether you're trained, not trained, whether you understand the sport or not.
You could argue that he's more brave by admitting that. You know what I mean? It's like, yeah, like there's almost, when you think about it, it's almost more weak to be afraid to admit how you feel. As soft as that sounds, I don't know. It's like more weak to be afraid to say that you're afraid than it is to actually be afraid when you think about it.
Yeah, just one, right? I'm sure he's not the only fighter that's sitting in the locker rooms before going out there and nervous and scared and shitting bricks, like he said. He's definitely not alone. With 500 fighters on the roster, I'm sure that every single one of them have an experience where they were nervous, scared, shitting bricks, doubting themselves. It's human nature.
Yeah, I think to your point, like putting on a facade like you're not at least some nervous, that's a bit inconsistent with like how they're probably feeling, and that's definitely more cowardice than if you're just being true to yourself and like admitting, yeah, I'm a bit scared. Like, makes sense. You're about to go fight someone half to death.
Yeah, but like think about this. If you got to lie to yourself and then know that you're lying to yourself, that's going to probably make you more nervous, because it's like, oh my God, I'm bullshitting myself. You know what I mean? And it's you're 5 minutes out of a fight, 4 minutes, 3 minutes. They're counting you down. You're bullshitting yourself, and you know you're bullshitting yourself. I feel like that's going to play more games in your head than if you just accept how you feel and like, yeah, well, this is how we feel.
And then on the other side, there's like the attitude of like fake it till you make it kind of thing. But what are your thoughts on just kind of giving yourself, like kind of pumping yourself up and talking yourself up even when maybe you are nervous?
I don't fake nothing, man. I don't believe in faking anything. And like I used to be fed that bullshit, fake it till you make it, by like an old boss I had. and like this fake it till you make it mentality. But honestly, like since the past couple of years, like I just do what's natural. I still look to have as successful of a mindset as I can, and still always have a very like champion kind of mindset with everything I do. But ultimately, you're gonna feel the best when you just kind of like embrace how you naturally react to things. And maybe you can teach yourself over time to kind of interpret things more positively, as opposed to like lie to yourself.
Yeah. And even like the nerves can be good. Like the worst, one of the worst fights I had was like I had no nerves coming into it, and then right when the fight started, like I didn't have any that adrenaline, so I was feeling all the shots. But then like after a while, then the adrenaline starts to kick in, and then you kind of zone in a little more.
I agree with that 100%, man. When there's like a lack of those emotions, right? There's a lack of those emotions. Something just doesn't feel right. Then you're not ready to do war. You're not ready to fight if you don't feel a certain way. You know what I mean? And
you've fought at various weight classes before. What do you like sit at usually?
It's a secret sometimes, but I go big and small. I got a body that naturally does like weird ass fluctuations. Like I fluctuate like 13 pounds, man. Like it's weird. Like my body goes up and down all the time.
Okay. What's the heaviest you fought at?
Heaviest I fought at was 145.
Okay. And the lightest 125?
I had to cut the 45 as well. And then, yeah. So I sit pretty big a lot of the time. I'm pretty big for bantamweight, but I'm also super disciplined with my diet. So I'm really good at making weight at the same time. So
do you like the current system for weight cutting, or do you prefer kind of like 1FC's approach where they kind of test hydration levels and all that and try to have people sit more at their natural weight class?
I like that. Yeah, I like that. I like that idea of not being if you think about it, it's almost the same thing though, because you'd be competing against the same size guys regardless.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So there's also what I think is cool is the addition of new weight classes too, though, because that really spreads things out. And guys maybe won't have to cut as much anymore because they're not, the 145ers maybe aren't like trying to run away from 6-footers anymore,
Nice.
Because like that is a weird division because you get some guys in the 145 division that, like, let's face it, who are like 6'2". Like look at friggin' Matar. He's a big dude, man. For
yeah.
45er. So think about it he's also quite light, but holy crap. Like if anyone's ever trained with that guy, like you can feel that him and I are actually pretty close in weight, like naturally. But like he's a different size dude. He's strong. Like his bones and his muscles, they're freaking strong. They're the size. He's got the bones and muscles of a big man because he's 6'2", but he's just light. You know what I mean? So it's I feel like that's a weird division, man, because like you get like the full spectrum. You get featherweights that are way smaller than me, and you get dudes who are like him.
Okay. And question for Michael, like I know you've worked in different aspects of the combat sports industry. You've like done more like media side with Bellum Quintet, and then for BTC you've done like photography. Where do you see your career going in the future?
I think it really depends on where sports goes in the next little while, right? We got to wait and see what happens. I think that there's going to be a whole jump now of events that are held in like tiny little venues, and we may not have a need for these mega venues anymore. Right? Scotiabank Arena, these giant UFC, huge stadium events, right? And like, think about the one they just did with Izzy, with 60,000 people that came out, right? So I really don't know. I think that a lot of them are going to be held at stuff like the Apex, right? With maybe no fans, some fans. And for me, I really think that it's just going to be figuring out how to host these events and make sure everyone's safe, and hopefully we can get them going in the next little while. I can't take any credit for any of the Bellum Quintet stuff, but Rory's done an incredible job of churning out events and planning for the next ones and trying to get like the absolute best talent we can. So what I'm really hoping is that Quintet keeps coming and we keep getting top talent, and I really hope that eventually we can start paying athletes and getting some top talent here in Canada. I think jiu-jitsu's it's already come a long way, and I think it's got a long way to go still.
And do you guys, I see you're wearing the Look to Tour sweater. Do you guys hope to hold some more wrestling style events in the future?
That's Rory's give and take, right? That's his favorite thing. He grew up wrestling. He was a wrestler. He's a fighter, but I've never seen anybody so passionate about wrestling. So I definitely think that Rory's going to have some more Luke to Tour events in the making. The Brock versus McMaster thing was amazing. Firsthand, the Brock wrestlers are super competitive, and Mac wasn't holding back. So if we can do some more inter-scholar competitions, that'd be awesome.
Sweet.
Sure.
What are your plans for the summer?
My plans for the summer? Well, man, I'm gonna look to keep training like I am. I'm doing lots of strength and conditioning training. It's been a great opportunity for that. So I'm just gonna keep improving on my shape, man. Make some money on the side. But yeah, man, like I'm just basically staying ready. I'm of the mindset that like fighting could be allowed on a moment's notice. I'm not gonna be one of these suckers who just like, oh, I'm not fighting for a long time. You know what I mean? You got to treat it like you got to be a professional 24/7. That's what real champions do, right? So I'm ready to fight on a moment's notice. I could fight next week if I wanted to, you know what I mean? Like, so I'm just staying in shape, just being ready to, just of the mindset that I'm going to fight soon.
Yeah. Have you, would you say that you're still as disciplined as you were pre-quarantine, or any like Netflix binges, Peaky Blinders? I know you have the Peaky Blinders. Like, what? How do you feel?
I started rewatching Peaky Blinders.
Oh yeah.
Watching Netflix isn't. I don't think that's slacking, man. That's like.
Yeah, you gotta have your downtime for sure.
Exactly. This is what's stupid is that like a lot of people like try to brag and act like they don't rest and don't whatever. You know what I mean? They act like they're training like 1,000% of the time. But honestly, like if you're really that secure with yourself, I admit, like I started watching Netflix and stuff like recently. As soon as the quarantine happened, I started playing the shit out of Call of Duty. You know what I mean? Like it's there's no shame in like admitting your like how much downtime you have. Like that's what I kind of longed for the whole time that I was doing. When I'm in fight camp is when I play the most video games, man. Honestly.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
Lots of UFC, brushing up on those moves.
Hey, yeah. Well, I actually suck at the UFC games, so I can't watch them or they put me I can't play them or I get violent in real life. But yeah, like Crew Jeff tells me, I'm telling him I'm my coach. I'm playing Xbox right now, and he's like, okay, good. He strongly approves. He's like, okay, ideally something violent, please.
It's weird how there's not like that crossover from some people find for like MMA games versus actually training MMA. Like it's the same. I had a friend who was like a wizard at guitar, and then he was just trash at Guitar Hero.
Well, yeah,
I'm great at UFC. I'm terrible on the mats.
But man, like what pisses me off with these, well, not what pisses me off, but like what I don't think is easy to mimic. Like MMA is not an easy sport to mimic the mechanics or the physics of it in a game. It's really hard to mimic that.
Yeah, it's pretty intricate.
It's so intricate, man, and like the movements that I don't naturally relate my own movements to like something you can do with controller like that. It's real hard to kind of have that crossover. Like it just doesn't flow naturally to me to play a UFC game, right? Because all of a sudden I'm fighting from the side like this, like Mortal Kombat style, and it just doesn't make sense. You know what I mean? Maybe if it was first person, I'd do better.
What's your favorite video game?
I go through phases, but greatest is probably The Witcher 3.
The Witcher?
The Witcher 3.
I've never heard of it.
Oh my goodness.
Is that
have you heard of it?
Man, I play a lot of video games. I've never heard of The Witcher.
You've never heard of The Witcher?
Oh.
They even made a Netflix series of it.
Really?
Yeah.
You guys have obviously been living under a rock or in a cave or something.
Gotta check it out.
Yeah.
I've been playing like Advanced Warfare, like the most universally hated Call of Duty, but just because my girlfriend's sister's boyfriend has it, and they have jetpacks, and it's pretty sweet.
Like, Warzone's free. Get on that.
Which one, sorry?
Warzone.
Yeah, Warzone's good too.
Oh, dude, Warzone's awesome.
I just can't. I don't like how you have one life. Like I'm not good enough to handle that. It's too frustrating.
Warzone's a genuinely scary game. Like there's times when I'm playing and I'm genuinely scared.
Yeah.
Where you have to fight your way out of the gulag?
Yeah, man. Like just scary times. Like,
Dude, I get almost like fight adrenaline before I do that. Get out of the gulag because you know that you're gonna. It's cool that they've introduced this idea that like has been so absent in these first-person shooters, is that like when you're dead, you're done. You know what I mean? Like you're actually dead. So all of a sudden, guys are not sprinting across the map, jumping 360, killing you. You know what I mean? Like a paintball match. People are actually like it forces people to actually be like strategic. You know?
There's definitely a lot more strategy in Warzone than there has been in like Modern Warfare 2 or something like that, where it's just toss a grenade, run for your life, and if you die.
Yeah. I like to think about it like paintball almost. Like you're sprinting across a map, you know? Like
yeah, as soon as you're open, you're in trouble.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So do you feel like, Michael, that with the current landscape of sport right now, that your job kind of working in media is a lot more important now, and that it'll become a lot bigger factor, just because like if we're not having live events, then we're going to need them streamed, and we're going to need people covering it, taking photos and all that?
I hope so. I really hope that we can find a way to put out really good streams now, that there's maybe not so much overhead in terms of putting on a huge event, that we can dedicate that to phenomenal streaming and different camera angles, so that let's say during Quintet events, you can get 3-4 different angles and see exactly what's going on, right? It's hard to tell in jiu-jitsu matches. If you do jiu-jitsu, you understand what's going on, but the whole point is to grow the sport, right? To get people who aren't as informed to watch, to understand what it's about. And it's tough, right? With MMA, with boxing, to a normal person who hasn't trained before, they may still understand, oh, he's getting hurt, he's bloody. But with jiu-jitsu, it's tough. It's really tough to explain to somebody what's going on if they don't know the sport. But if we can show it to them better while they're sitting at home, and maybe have, like, Rory does a phenomenal job on commentary, and Josh Hill does a great job on commentary. So I think that the better the audio, the better the video streaming, the more we can show them, the better it'll be for sure.
Yeah.
Sweet.
And what's great about it, I gotta give props. Like when I the one Bellum event that I went to, the Quintet, Rory was like super informative to the crowd, because he was talking like very well, knowing that a lot of people, this is their first time seeing jiu-jitsu, and they said that during the rules meeting too, like to all the competitors. They're like, guys, a lot of people haven't seen jiu-jitsu, so the impression of jiu-jitsu that you're giving them like comes down to your performance and the way you fight. If you want to have like a boring ass match, that's the impression people get of jiu-jitsu. So they were really clear about that, because they were encouraging, aggressive jiu-jitsu matches, aggressive finishing styles, the kind of jiu-jitsu that we want to see. You know what I mean? And as opposed to people getting, because like there's been people that I tried to show like jiu-jitsu to a long time ago, and like they Google it on YouTube, and there's an endless YouTube playlist of IBJJF matches where two people just like sit up, sit down, sit up, sit down, and then like the match is called on like a couple advantages, and people are like, what the fuck is this? You know what I mean? Versus you see like this is why submission only is so popular now, man. It's because people are like, there's high stakes. Like if you don't submit the person, like there's stakes. You know what I mean? Like, so yeah, like when Roy, the way he was like talking about it to the, like, even the wording of things like to the crowd, it's almost like it gives people an opportunity to understand who don't know what's going on really. You know what I mean?
I always give Rory a tough time for being the Joe Rogan of Canadian jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
He's great on the mic and he loves it. I think the whole point of doing this whole thing with Luchator and the wrestling and the Quintet matches is that he really does want to grow the sport. Like I know there's been some backlash, like people saying that it's tough to pay the athletes and it's tough to get top talent, but the whole point is that we need to grow the sport first, right? We need to get people interested. We need to get people excited, and we got to show them submissions. We got to show them high action. We got to show them high pace, and it's got to look good, right? Like you said, Matt, from a broadcast perspective, yeah, maybe we might have to make it that much more flashy, right? It's sucks because jiu-jitsu is such a great sport, and at the highest levels, like it's just so intense, and it's I wish I wish it was easier to get people excited about it.
Yeah, well, it's yeah, it's absolutely like when you get like a format where there's some kind of prize involved too, and like it's only applicable if you submit somebody. I think like those stakes in itself are super exciting. Just knowing that as a fan, if I know that these guys only get paid if they like submit the person, then I'm like, oh shit, like I know that it's like that anticipation grows. You know what I mean? Like you know that there's gonna be a fight in your hands.
What are your thoughts on the quintet style matches, like the tournaments?
Badass, man. I love that stuff.
Sweet. Yeah, one of the reasons I really wanted to get Michael on was because he's more of a jiu-jitsu guy than I am. Like, I do appreciate jiu-jitsu, but at the same time, I'm still a noob. I'm more like versed in the wrestling and the Muay Thai aspects of combat sports. But what do you find is like the biggest difference between jiu-jitsu in an MMA setting versus just straight like no gi or with a gi?
Well, like I said it earlier, where there's certain like habits you kind of gotta try to get out of, unless you're that good that you can pull it off anyway. I know that I can get away with a lot of shit that most people, even a lot of jiu-jitsu guys, can't pull off in MMA. You know, some people might get mad at me saying that, but like it's true. Like I can do a lot of jiu-jitsu things in MMA that most people deem not applicable. But when you're good enough at jiu-jitsu, you can do all kinds of crazy shit in MMA. It comes down to I really feel like my jiu-jitsu, I've done it since I was a kid. So like my level of jiu-jitsu is far beyond that of like your MMA fighters. You know what I mean? So I can pull out a lot of techniques that are probably inadvisable. So, but like the main difference is obviously you're like the presence of striking and oftentimes like in the UFC you'll actually see, or in MMA in general, you'll see a lot of really basic jiu-jitsu being like the core of what everyone does. You know, take someone down, pass to half guard, and like lay on them. And then you'll notice too, like a lot of people as soon as they start striking, they lose position. You know, when you have a real strong jiu-jitsu base and you can pull off that, like it almost enhances like your ground and pound and stuff too. So I really think that the main differences come down to like how good people are at grappling in general. And a lot of people might get mad at me for saying that, but like let's face it, like the jiu-jitsu purists are the best grapplers. And like whoever's got the good style to come to MMA can pull off all kinds of submissions and ground and pound that other MMA grapplers even wouldn't be able to do.
Was that always the game plan going in? Suri's a great striker. We've seen it before, but did you know going in there it was going to be heavily jiu-jitsu based? Or are you just going in there feeling them out?
For Suri?
Your last fight, yeah.
Man, like I just went with what felt right. Like I do game plan in terms of like who I'm fighting, and like I look at how they react to certain things. Okay, so like I see how Suri reacts to the like wrestling exchanges, let's say, and then I kind of like have a basic idea of like how he's going to react to things. Also assuming that he's gotten better in that time between two fights, right? I'm also assuming that, but like I'll put him somewhere. That like fighting goes. You do something, you feel the reaction, you see what happens, and then you kind of go from there. So in this fight, like as soon as the grappling exchanges started, I felt it out and I knew exactly what I needed to do from then on out. I kind of completed. I filled in all the other dots when we did the first kind of like wrestling exchange. I saw how he reacted. I felt how he reacted like emotionally too. So I know that the guy didn't like grappling with me, and I could pick up on that.
Sweet. Well, I had a great view of it, so I got no complaints.
Yeah. And I gotta start doing photography. I was like in the nosebleeds.
It's a good way to do it. All I do is push a button. I always tell everyone, man, I don't want any credit. All I do is just push a button and they make themselves look good.
Yeah.
So moving forward, Mateo, what are your goals for MMA? Like UFC champion? Do you want to go to a different promotion or? What are you?
100% the UFC champion.
Nice.
That's what you got to. That's what you got to be to be a legend, man.
Yeah.
That's what I'm looking to do. I'm looking to change the sport. I'm looking to be one of the greatest. Like, I honestly believe that it can quickly happen for me. That I can be on UFC before you know it. You know what I mean? Just the amount of work that I put in every single day, and the amount of work I put in since I was a kid. That's been my goal since day one. You know what I mean?
Sweet.
So honestly, I want to cement a strong legacy in the sport. I want to be one of the greats. You know what I mean? The people that you talk about, the people that you like, the people that you look back on later on. The Mike Tysons, the George St. Pierre's, the legends of the sport that you look back on. That's the kind of level that I want to be remembered on.
Nice. Obviously, you have like a crazy high level of jiu-jitsu, but what would you say is like the aspect of your game that needs the most improvement?
I don't know, man. Like, it's kind of, I take the mentality like you got to treat yourself like you're a white belt in everything sometimes. You know what I mean? Like, you gotta always have that like open mind to be like constantly improving in all areas. Obviously, like, jiu-jitsu is like super natural to me, and then I got into striking like way after, but
Only a few years ago, right?
yeah, we're what is it? Like 2017 August 2017.
Okay.
So I put my first pair of gloves on.
Yeah.
Then I don't know. Like, there's some grapplers, they put on the gloves and they catch that striking bug. Obviously, I love striking that too. I love that. I love boxing, Muay Thai, all that stuff, and I got heavily into striking too. But I'm never really gonna like. I don't think I'm too heavy in any aspect of the sport. Like, I kind of love it all equally. You know what I mean? I love wrestling, love doing jiu-jitsu, and I just love fighting in general. And like, when you think about it, you can kind of, when MMA happens, like, we categorize everything like, oh, that was Muay Thai, oh, that was this, that was obviously boxing, or that was karate style. But like, at the end of the day, everything that we're doing is this one thing. It's fighting. You know what I mean? That's how I feel about that.
Yeah, because your striking definitely like came leaps and bounds very quickly. Like, I remember, I think like you started training striking like around when New Era first opened, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I remember like even like a couple months in, like, you're kicking my ass, man, with the boxing and the Muay Thai there. Yeah, definitely had some good rounds in there. How is like New Era affected your kind of fight game and mentality, and like switching camps? How big a role do you feel like that played in your career so far?
I think that's the best thing that's ever happened to me, man. Being at New Era, like, basically, like, it just created an environment where like, artists can be artists, kind of thing. You know what I mean? Like, it lets you just be. It's the perfect breeding ground for a fighter, because we got this like open doors kind of mentality where everyone comes in, but at the same time, like, we also have great athletes in all areas. So we're all exposed to each other, and we all everyone's styles affects each other. You know what I mean? So like, there's that, and also Crew Jeff and Peter created like a format which is perfect for us to all be exposed to each other, like, just to grow and to really nurture being a fighter. Like, that's the main mentality, and regardless of like, I'm an instructor or I work at the gym too, but like, it's never been a matter of, there's never been a time where that gets in the way of me being a champion, because there's always the mentality that that's the main thing. You know what I mean? So yeah. New Era was like the best thing. Like, coming from a team before where I wasn't able to train. You know what I mean? Like, you were made a staff member, and you like basically weren't allowed to train anymore. So like, coming from that to a place where that's the main focus, and I'm just allowed to nurture being a champion. Basically, it's the breeding ground for champions. That's the way I describe it.
Nice. Yeah, because you're pretty much living at the gym, like teaching classes, training, like 2-3 times a day.
Yeah, man.
Pretty much.
Life. I'm allowed to live the fighter lifestyle. You know what I mean? I can do that 24/7.
Sweet.
Even when I'm working, I'm working, teaching, fighting. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Did you find that when you started teaching, it improved your game a lot? Because I know some people say like once they start teaching, it kind of re-ingrains those like basic fundamentals and helps them.
Yeah, man. You got to teaching teaches yourself about yourself, or teaches you about yourself. Do you know why? Because you're taking your own techniques that you already did, maybe intuitively, let's say, like some guard pass that you figured out. But now all of a sudden, I got to explain how it works to a room of 30 people. So now by me having to break it down like that, I've also broken it down to myself. And when I teach that, let's say every couple months, I come back to that same technique whenever we're doing guard passing. I once again have to re-ingrain that process through my brain. So like I'm literally step by step breaking down things that I already did. So now it's both in my subconscious and it's in my conscious at the same time.
Makes sense.
You know what I mean? So you're breaking your own game down to yourself. So you completely now understand how your game works, which is I think what helps it actually progress more quickly.
And you get to see like what are some common mistakes with each technique when you're watching other people do it and correcting them.
Absolutely. Yeah, and like people will ask questions all of a sudden. So then this thing that you already know works and you so heavily believe in, now all of a sudden someone's questioning it. Somebody's like, what if they do you know what I mean? Like somebody's got like some kind of input, and then that challenges it. So now you got to answer like how you respond to that. So you get all the what ifs and you get someone throwing a monkey wrench in it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. What would you say is like the hardest part about teaching?
Hardest part, like about being a good teacher, or like the hardest, like what do you mean? Like the hardest to be a good teacher, or the hardest?
Yeah, to be a good teacher, like the major setbacks or anything that's difficult.
Well, I feel like to be a good teacher, you have to one uh, teach things that you yourself do. So one thing that I'd say you should never do is teach something that you don't use, right? Or something that you don't truly believe in, because all of a sudden when somebody challenges you on it, you're like, oh shit, you're right. You know what I mean? So like to be a great teacher, I feel like you really got to teach things that you 100% believe in. You got to believe what you're telling everybody else. You know what I mean, I'm not just gonna teach something because it's part of some curriculum that I need to teach XYZ because I was told to and because it's in a book. You know what I mean? I'm going to teach something that I think is actually going to make these people better and that they're going to learn from, and they're going to learn through the denial and error of what I went through.
Yeah.
The trial and error.
And you've been doing some online teaching with New Era Combat remote training. How's that been going? How have you kind of adapted to that?
I like that, man. I like that format. It's cool. I can see who's tuning in. It's that feeling of eyes on you again too. So you gotta go hard. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
Not that I wouldn't go hard in a workout, but when people's eyes are on you, like it's easy to get like in the zone and pumped up because okay, these people are watching me work out. So now I gotta really perform and do my shit right. You know what I mean? It's also embarrassing when the camera falls down or mistake or something, you know?
Yeah.
But
what are like the major challenges for that? Like obviously you can't see what people are doing, so that's got to be difficult. And you're mostly teaching MMA right now, not jiu-jitsu, right? Or I guess it's all combined.
It's hard to teach jiu-jitsu without a person. You can do solo. I don't want to just do jiu-jitsu solo drills when like Peter's gone through the freaking encyclopedia of those already. He's got better ones than I do. So like for me to just come and like teach what a black belt's already done is kind of, I don't think people necessarily are looking for that. Like you got the black belt teaching people that, but like when it's me, I feel like just show people what I do. Yeah. I'm legit showing people workouts that I do. You know what I mean? I'm giving people things that actually make you faster, more explosive, more athletic. I basically take liberty, like Jeff said like just you can do a workout and just like teach people as you go along. Like it doesn't have to be this, that, or whatever. So it's kind of fun doing the online training for that reason. You can teach whatever you want. And then, and yeah, you can also see who's watching. You can see if people skip out on warm-ups. You can see, you know, I can see people who are too cool to stretch. You know?
Yeah. So Michael, you just graduated. Not the best time to graduate with a sport management degree, but well, congratulations first of all. And how are you gonna kind of adapt? I know you said you've been doing like some different like programs and courses on like photo editing and whatnot. What else have you been up to?
Honestly, I'm just so excited to get back to hosting events. I've been talking to Rory a little bit, and I know that he wanted to get an event going. This was earlier when we were speaking in February, that he wanted to get an event going in June, but I think that's definitely to get pushed back.
Yeah.
Right now, it really is just brainstorming about how we're gonna get everything back to normal, right? And I don't know. Who knows what's gonna happen, right? It's a tough time to graduate with a sports management degree when sports has been shut down for the first time in forever. And I'm sure that you can relate, right? Because you got what, 1 more year?
2 more years.
2 more years. So they just announced all classes are now online. So
yeah, it's gonna be weird.
It's a real shit sandwich.
For everyone. Huge adjustment. So are you planning on taking the year off or?
Well, I already took a 2-year gap year. So I kind of want to just get it done kind of thing, but I do feel like I won't get as good at education for sure in an online format, especially like I'm the kind of person that I like to procrastinate. So this is definitely not ideal.
Yeah. Do you know
Pardon?
Do you know if you want to stay in the combat sports field when you're done?
Yeah, for sure. Definitely. I want to get into the promotion game. I was trying to plan a Muay Thai show. I told you a bit earlier for September, but now it's looking like I'm going to have to postpone that. It's kind of weird, like trying to plan something as like all this is going down and like you have to do so much contingency planning and
Sure.
Yeah, I'm not sure when this is going to happen, but probably.
I'd love to get on that UFC document, the 30-page document that outlines exactly what they were doing.
Okay, I'm not familiar.
So basically, that's the only way, the way that the UFC got the Florida Commission to accept them hosting events was that they wrote a quote-unquote 30-page document, which ended up being 23 pages, outlining exactly what they were going to do for all the safety measures. So
okay,
if we could get a hold of that somehow or create something similar based on what they did, I think that might be the only thing that could get us, that could fast track us putting on events. If someone could come to the Ontario government and say, hey, if someone can get a massage, we can definitely host an event. Here's how we'll do it. Right?
Yeah.
So I'd argue with you on that. I'd say that fighting for me is more pleasurable than massage.
I'm sure. But yeah, I really hope that soon we can get back to hosting events and going to events, and I can keep shooting events. And it's been too long.
Yeah, it was crazy. Like, what was it, like 2 months without any UFC or any combat sports?
Garbage, but that week with 3 events was fantastic.
Yeah, it was pretty blessed. What's the next event? Isn't like Woodley supposed to fight?
Woodley Burns?
Yeah.
When is that? Is that next week? This week?
Might be.
Was that Saturday?
I think it's either this Saturday or next Saturday.
It's a great fight. Mateo, who you got?
I don't know, man. I hate calling fights. I'll look at it and probably Woodley. Yeah. Most likely. You know what I mean? I don't know. But yeah. Man, if like you're saying, if there's some way to fast track things happening here, man, like, that would be, I'd be all for that. I'd get on the mic and I'd start talking to smack it to whoever it takes to make that happen. You know what I mean? I've been already getting on the horn a little bit, but yeah, like whether MMA is not allowed yet and I gotta do jiu-jitsu, if it's like the Rory show, let's say, I'm super down for that kind of thing. I was already supposed to fight on one of those, right? So I'd be super down to even fight on jiu-jitsu if that's what's allowed first. Anything.
Yeah.
Anyways, guys, I'll probably wrap it up. Thanks a lot for coming. Really appreciate it, and hopefully everything opens up soon. Get back to training, get back to promotion, get back to filming and taking pictures and all that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll have to take you up on that wrestling challenge that you were supposed to wrestle and we never did, right?
Yeah. I had after your last fight, because I was sitting down with all the wrestlers and they were saying like this Mateo guy's pretty crazy. Like I'd love to like get some grappling in with him because coming from Brock University, they all they love MMA and also wrestling, obviously. But I invited you to come down, visit me whenever you had a chance to come get in the Brock wrestling room and get some reps in. So hopefully we can
take you up on that as soon as it's allowed, bro.
Yeah, probably won't hold their breath because it's going to be a bit, especially because they have to go abide by like the school guidelines and the school has to be extra careful, but we'll see what happens.
Schools are going to be the last thing.
Sorry?
The schools will be the last to open up.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Anyway, guys, thanks a lot and talk to you soon.
My pleasure, brother. Thank you.
See ya.